Hey guys, today we're going to learn about solving one-step equations. Okay, and you know that the word solve means to actually find the answer to. So we're going to find the answer to one-step equations. Okay, and as you guys know, an equation is a number sentence that contains a equal sign. Okay, and so it has a variable, it has a number, and it also has an operation. The operation could be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. All right, so we're going to go through a few little notes today, and I want you to think about this picture. This picture right here is a picture of a balance. Okay, and to solve a equation, you have to have the same on both sides. Okay, and so when you're solving an equation, the goal is going to be to get the variable by itself. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. Okay, so the goal is to get the variable by itself. Okay, now, usually when you have a problem, like you look on the bottom of this page, you'll see x plus 3 equals 7, or negative 5 plus x equals 2, or x minus 2 is equal to 4. In each one of those equations, you can see that there is a term with the variable. Okay, and we want, when you're solving a one-step equation, you want just x all by itself. No term, no coefficient, nothing. Okay, so we're going to do this by using the opposite operation. Okay, now that's got a very special name that I'm going to need for you guys to know, and it's called the inverse operation. Inverse operation. Okay, because we're going to talk about inverse more so than we will just say the opposite. Okay, so inverse operation just means the opposite. So for example, if you had a multiplication problem, the opposite or the inverse operation of multiplication is division. If you had a subtraction problem, the opposite of subtraction is going to be addition. Okay, and the way that you do this is that you move things away from the variable. Okay, because remember, the goal is to get the variable by itself. And you can't do it unless things are not with the variable. So it's going to be really, really important that you get the variable by itself. Okay, so we're going to do some problems right now that are showing you exactly how to do it. All right, so if you look here, you see the addition. Okay, now I'm going to be really specific on how I want you to solve it because I think it helps you guys, especially since this is the first time you see this, in separating it out so that you can solve it. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to draw a line. So this says x plus 3 equals 7, and I'm just going to rewrite it just because I want to. Equals 7. Okay, so the first thing you have to say is my variable by itself? No, it's not. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to draw a line, okay, that separates out your variable side and then your number side. So you can see that right now, x, it says x plus 3. Okay, that's on one side of the equal sign, and 7 is on the other side of the equal sign. Well, I know that you right now can probably look at this and figure it out mathematically what the answer is going to be. But what I need you to know how to do is how to do it algebraically. Okay, so if you go back to those instructions, the first goal is to get the variable by itself. No, the variable's not by itself right now. It's with x plus 3. Okay, and you do this by using the opposite or inverse operation. So in this problem, it says x plus 3. Well, what's the opposite of plus 3? The opposite is minus 3. So what we have to do is we have to do the inverse operation on both sides of the equal sign, because remember, we want that to have a balance. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Okay? Now, when we subtract 3 plus 3 minus 3, that gives me that 0 that I need, or nothing. Okay? So it leaves x on the left-hand side of the equal sign. All right, and 7 minus 3 is equal to 4. You have just solved this algebraically. 4 is your answer. Now, how do you know? You're going to go back in and you're going to replace, or that word that we like to use in math for replace is substitute. Substitute 4 for your variable. So you have 4 plus 3 equals 7. Is that true? Why, yes, it is. So you can know that you've checked it. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, it's still an addition problem. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to draw that line. And I'm going to ask myself, is x by itself? No, x is not by itself. Right now, x is with minus 5. Okay, and you always want to have a value that x, the coefficient of x, you always want it to be a positive 1 if you can help it. Okay, in this case, you can see that x is positive, so that's good, because in a moment, we're going to find that x is not always positive. So right now, x is with a negative 5. What's the opposite of negative 5? It's going to be positive 5. Okay, so you're going to add 5 to both sides. That's going to cancel out, leaving you with that 0 pair that you're looking for. And on the right-hand side, you have that 2 plus 5 is equal to 7. Okay, so let's substitute. We have negative 5 plus positive 7 is equal to positive 2. Okay, if this is true, then we know that x will have a value of positive 7. So if I subtract 7 minus, or if I take negative 5 plus 7, do I get a negative 2? Yes, I do. So my answer here is x is equal to 7. Now, it's really, really important that you guys draw that line and you do it algebraically, because on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to get into solving not just one-step equations, but 2 or more step equations. So it's going to be really important that you guys know how to do it algebraically, because you're going to have to do those 2-step equations algebraically. All right, so I have a subtraction problem. X minus 2 equals 4. First thing I want to do is I want to draw that line and separate it out. Okay, is x by itself? Why, no, it is not. X right now is with minus 2. So what is the opposite of minus 2? The opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. So I'm going to add plus 2 to both sides. Okay, and so this will cancel out, leaving me that 0 pair I'm looking for. And 6 plus 2, 4 plus 2 is going to give me 6. So this tells me that my value of x is 6. So let's substitute. 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. Does 6 minus 2 equal 4? Why, yes, it does. Okay, so we know that x minus 6, or x is equal to 6. All right, let's do a different kind of subtraction problem that's actually a little bit more complex. All right, so we have 8 minus x is equal to 5. 8 minus x is equal to 5. Okay, so I'm going to draw that line again. Straight down. Now, that's a positive 8, but that says minus x. So x is not going to be a positive x. It's going to be a negative x. And when you can't see that coefficient in front of it, it's actually do you remember what it was? We talked about it last week. When there's no coefficient in front of the variable, it's understood that it's going to be a positive 1 or a negative 1. Now, I want my x to be a positive. So what I could do right here is I could just subtract the opposite. Remember? Or add the opposite. I'm going to add x to both sides. So now that changes, and I have 8 on one side is equal to 5 plus 5 plus x. Now that really didn't help me any because x is still by itself, but now I have a positive x, which is what I want. I want to be able to have that positive x. And it doesn't matter if x is on the left-hand side of your equation or if x is on the right-hand side of the equation, because that equal sign is like a balance. Remember that. The goal is to balance the equation. All right, so let's draw that line that we've got there. And right now, x is with plus 5. So how do I undo plus 5? I subtract 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, and 8 minus 5 is equal to 3. So x is equal to 3. Now let's substitute that. Let's go on up to the top here. We have 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. Is that a true statement? Why, yes, it is. So we know that the value of x is 3. All right, let's look at multiplication. Okay, multiplication. The multiplication problem that we have, it says negative 6 times the value of x is equal to 12. Okay, and we know that when we have that number or that coefficient right next to the variable, it means to multiply. So one thing that might make it easier when you have multiplication is if you write it out with the dot. Okay, that way you can see it separated, so you can see each one of those terms separately. Okay, now what does this mean? This means negative 6 times x is equal to 12. Well, right now, it's not by itself. X is not by itself. So the only way that I can undo multiplication is with division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. Okay, Now, this might trick some of you, and I really don't want it to. Okay, what is a negative 6 divided by a negative 6? It's a positive 1. And remember, we only want to have one x, such as in the subtraction, we had only one x. In the addition, we had only one x. So now on the left-hand side, I only have one x, which is exactly what I want. And what we have to do now is we have to divide negative 6 into 12, or 12 divided by negative 6. And how many times does negative 6 go into positive 12? It's going to go negative 2. Okay, and how do you know? Remember Dorito Man, a negative times a negative is a positive. So let's just substitute and see what happens if we get that correctly. It's positive 6 times, we said that x is negative 2. I'm sorry, negative 6 times negative 2 is equal to positive 12. And that is true. This is another true statement. Okay, the last one might look a little tricky to you only because it has it looks like a fraction, but it's really not a fraction. Okay, it really is just division. Remember that when you have a fraction, that line means to divide. Okay, so what's the opposite of dividing by 2? The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So if I had multiply by 2 on both sides, okay, remember these will cancel out because what it really leaves you with is 2x over 2, and those 2 goes into 2 one time, leaving you with the 1x. So we have 2 cancels out, and 4 times 2 is 8. That means that my answer is, let me rewrite that so you can see a little better. X is equal to 8. Now let's try that just because, okay, just to make sure we have substitute 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4. Does that work out? Why, yes, it does. That is the correct answer. All right, let's just try a couple more multiplication and division, because those seem to be what kids will get confused on. So let's say that I have 4x is equal to 20. Okay, 4x is equal to 20. Now, how do we undo 4 times x? Remember, if you just rewrite it, it helps you a little bit. How do you undo times 4? You undo times 4 by by dividing by 4. Okay, so we're going to divide both sides by 4. This cancels out, giving you that 1x that you want, the coefficient with 1. And how many times does 4 go into 20? It goes in there 5 times. So x is equal to 5. All right, let's try one more division, and then you can do your quizzes. Okay, so division would be x over 7 is equal to 3, or x divided by 7 is equal to 3. Okay, so how do you undo divided by 7? By multiplying by 7. Okay, you can cross those out. And remember that the parentheses here around my 7 mean to multiply. If it helps you to put the dot, then put the dot. Whatever it's easiest for you to remember. Now I have 1x all by itself on the left-hand side, and 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, now remember, it is possible to have positive and negative numbers both, so you have to be careful when you're looking at it. Okay, if you have any questions, you need any extra help, um, please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk. All right, I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.